Hey there guys, so Daddy-O here from Dad Venture TV. I'm going to give you my recap of the Trek Fuel EX 27.5 Plus. Just overview of the bike. It's a Fuel EX8, that is the aluminum frame, Fox Rhythm forks, guide, Shimano Guide R, SRAM Guide R brakes. It does have the boost spacing hubs, which means they're a little wider. It's supposed to add more rigidity to the wheels. I think they're 40 millimeter rims. SRAM Eagle 1x Schwab Knobby Nick 27.5 2.8 inch wide tires. Dropper seat post, I don't know what it is, but it worked. Bontrager bars, Bontrager stem. It's probably maybe a 40 mil stem, 50 perhaps, probably 40 though. It has this knock block steering, which I will show you. See that? That's as far as you can turn the front steering. That's as far as it'll go. On the trail, didn't have any problems with it. If you need to put it on the back of a pickup and put it over your tailgate, you might have a problem. I don't know. I'd ask somebody who has a pickup truck first. The Fox float reactive rear suspension with a 3 switch, full open, medium, locked out. So my thoughts on the bike. First off, this is a trail bike that leans more towards the trail than the enduro or downhill side. It is 140 mil travel on the front, 130 mil travel on the rear. This bike is better for going up the mountains, up over rocky technical terrain. If you enjoy getting up the mountain as much as you enjoy getting down the mountain, then this is more of the type of bike that I think you're going to like. If you hate getting to the top of the mountain, it's just a nuisance, so you can ride down the mountain. If you're primarily interested in bike parks where you're taking a lift to the top of the mountain, then you probably want to get one that is maybe a little bit more slacked out and a little bit more leaning towards the enduro downhill end. For example, that would probably be the Remedy, which is a little bit slacker. This is like a 67 something degree head angle. You can make it a little slacker by adjusting this thing here called the Minnow Link chip, which I'll talk about in a minute, because that has to do with the bottom bracket height as well. But the Remedy is a naturally slacked out slacker bike. I think it's a little bit longer in the reach and the head tube as well. Yeah, the head tube as well. So, am I going to buy it, and would I recommend it? You know, I'm struggling with that, because when it's going well, I love this bike. Right up until it tried to kill me twice. 2 really bad crashes. Well, 1 really bad crash, one that was just annoying, which left me kind of the way you see me here. I don't know what my elbow looks like, but whatever that is, that's what it looks like. And they're from the pedal strikes. Well, 1 was a pedal strike, 1 was a rear derailleur strike. And the rear derailleur strike is the one that almost killed me. I think I knocked the swing arm out on the rear derailleur, and consequently I haven't been able to get into my 50 tooth cog since. So I've lost my lowest gear range. I cannot recommend and will not buy this bike with a SRAM Eagle on it. And the reason is, I think the rear derailleur hangs too low. I'll do a whole video on my thoughts on this. After I realized and figured out what caused me to crash, because I knew it wasn't a pedal strike. You could feel a pedal strike. That's what caused me to crash today. Today was more my fault. Something hit towards the bike at the back of the bike, and it wasn't until I was thinking about it later and really kind of replaying it and thinking about the damage to the rear derailleur that I realized I think what happened is the rear derailleur struck a rock and threw me. What happens is these tires are about an inch less in diameter than a 29er. The Munolink adjustment only raises the bottom bracket 10 centimeters, so that's not even half an inch. An inch is about 2.5 centimeters. So you're losing some height on the wheel size. Then, of course, you have plus tires that you're running at a lower pressure, so they're going to compress a little bit. And then, if you have the shock in the full open, which is what I had it on when I crashed because I was going downhill, of course, when the shock goes to its lowest position, that rear derailleur is really low. I measured it compared to my hardtail 29er, just with nobody on the bike, and it's about an inch lower. So now add in the squish, you can see how low that thing's going to be to the ground. Because of that, I honestly think that you could kill yourself on this bike with an Eagle drivetrain on it. So consequently, I could recommend it with a 2x system. The other thing with a 2x is this bike is really designed as a trail bike, as I said, more so than an enduro downhiller. It'll do that stuff. You saw the video on here with me at Wisp. It did great, and when I looked at my GPS, I was hitting 25 miles an hour downhill on some of there, and I definitely wasn't maxing it out because the trails were muddy today. And I wasn't 100% confident on the bike, still had that crash sort of in the back of my head. So it does the downhills fine, but it is really, really awesome in rock crawling and just clawing its way with those big 27.5 plus tires over rock. I love it for that. It is awesome for that. And if a lot of that is what your riding entails, why would you limit your selection in gears to 8 or 10 or whatever the Eagle has? Why not have the wider range? I always feel like I'm in the wrong gear for what I'm doing. I always feel like I'm either in too high or too low of a gear. The other thing is, in order to drop down from a middle gear to a low to start pedaling uphill, in a 1x, you have to click down about 4 or 5 times. Again, I'll do a video on a 1x versus a 2x, and I'll show you what I mean with the math. To get to that same change with a 1x, all you have to do is just drop from your higher chain ring to your lower chain ring in the front, and you're immediately into a lower gear. And then as you start to ascend, as the hill starts to get steeper, you drop your back chain ring until you get to however low of one you need. But it's a one drop when you're immediately into what you need to go up that hill. To me, for trail riding, a 2x system is way better than a 1x. As well as I think the 1xs are dangerous on a 27.5. I think it's truly the rule of unintended consequences. In order to get that big 50-tooth cog ring, you got to have a derailleur that hangs really low, and couple that now with a bike that was designed for either 29 or 27.5 wheels, put on the smaller wheels, add the squish, all of a sudden I think you have a derailleur that becomes dangerous. So can I recommend it? I can recommend it with a 2x system. I think that would be, if you're riding trails, I think this would be a great bike. I also have to say, I don't think I would have any more fun on an on a carbon frame that I had on this aluminum frame. If I were buying this personally, and I still might, I don't know, we'll see. I've got a bunch of other bikes to ride. I would buy the 8. I would buy the frame only. I would put better shocks. I would put either a Pike shock on it, or a RockShox Pike, or a Fox factory on the front. I would get carbon rims to offset a little bit the weight of the tires, and I would either get the Schwab Knobby Nicks are pretty cool. I'm personally a huge fan of the Minions, so I would probably put Minions on here, just like I have on my hardtail, actually. I would also deck the whole thing out in Shimano. I would just go get Shimano XT 2x and brakes the whole way. I guess the reverb seat post would be fine. I don't know if this is reverb or if this is a Bontrager. obviously seat, handlebars, grips, pedals, those sorts of things. You can do what you like. Also, the crank arms, I would get a shorter crank arm. By shorter, I mean shorter compared to longer. Whatever is comfortable that's not as long. Um, because of the pedal strikes. You do get pedal strikes on this. Ironically, I was getting less pedal strikes on this than I was getting on the Hightower LT, but the one pedal strike that I got today flipped me, and hitting that low bottom bracket yesterday, or the low derailleur yesterday, or 2 days ago, caused me to really crash bad. That one was a hard crash. So, that's personally what I would do. I don't think I would buy it as a full build. I think I'd just buy the frame and spend the money on the components. I'd kind of upgrade the components. I honestly can't see spending the money on a carbon frame. I mean, look, if you have it, it doesn't matter. Go for it. I mean, why not, right? But maybe it's a little bit. This is probably a little heavier than a carbon, I'm sure. But would I have had any more fun on a carbon than I had on this? I don't think so. Well, where I would have had more fun on this would have been with a 2x, would have been with different brakes, and would have been with lighter wheels. I mean, the wheels are cool, but if rolling weight is your biggest issue in terms of slowness, why not get that as low as possible? What I like about the bike, as I say, I like the 27.5. I think it's well set up and well designed as a all-around trail bike. I don't like the SRAM Guide R brakes. Quite frankly, I've had 2 of them now. I think they suck. That's just me. I can't stand them. The other ones seemed like they didn't work enough. These seemed like they worked too much, and I couldn't really modulate them very well. And I've heard that's supposed to be the great thing about SRAMs. They're supposed to be able to modulate them better. Well, I have XTs on mine, and they're way easier to modulate and way easier to get the right amount of grip and braking power than these. As I said, didn't like and still do not like the 1x system. I've tried it twice now. I would get personally different handlebars just because handlebars are a very personal thing. I am a fan of the fat bar. I like the knobby nicks. They were cool. The rims were fine. There's definitely nothing wrong with them. They felt good and stiff. The back end is fun. It's a playful bike. It wants to pop. The back end is fairly short, I assume, because, man, it was swinging around easily like that. One thing that's a little weird about it is the sizing. This is a 21.5. I should be a 19.5 according to the sizing charts. They don't have one. They have this, and then they have an 18.5 to demo. Quite frankly, that's 21.5 felt perfect for me. And I'm 5'10". My upper body is longer, definitely, than my legs. But my standover clearance was fine on it. Never felt like I was going to hit anything on my standover. And the reach felt perfect. I'm actually concerned if I were to buy this bike about getting a 19.5, perhaps being a little too short. I will try the 18.5 and see. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It's a great trail bike. This would be a great all-rounder. If you're doing more trails that you're pedaling than you are doing downhill stuff. If you're doing more of the downhill stuff, I'd probably look for something a little bit more slacked out. And I definitely, as I said, would only recommend it with getting a higher derailleur and on the 2x system. I think this one's going to kill somebody one of these days. But fun. When it's rocking and rolling, it's a fun bike, but you do have to watch the pedals and the pedal strikes and the low bottom bracket height. So that's it. I hope this helped. I still have other bikes I'm going to demo before I buy one. I probably am going to try the 18.5 with 29er wheels on this. I want to try, I know the Hightower has a regular Hightower version, which is I think 130 mil travel with 27.5 plus size tires. I'd like to try that. I want to try a Scott Genius with a 27.5. I really do like these 27.5. I think for trail riding, which is a lot of what my riding is from the videos you've seen, I think they're the best tire around. I think they're better than a 29er because they roll over just about as much as a 29er does, but they grip and claw better than a 29er, and the bike itself is way more nimble. I mean, with a 29er, you know, you've definitely some of those tight switchbacks and things and the tight twists and turns. This bike was way more nimble, way more playful. So I really like those Plus tires. They might be the way to go. The only downside to them, I would say, is if you live someplace muddy, like out in the Pacific Northwest, I don't know if Plus size tires would make a lot of sense. They do mush a lot in mud. In fact, on the downhill there at Wisp, that was the one thing that was causing me a little concern with going too fast, was in those tight turns where it was mud, between the fat tires and the mud, my front wheel had definitely a tendency to flatten out and smush down. So if you're in mud, I don't think a Plus is the way to go. But if you're on the train like you just saw on these videos, man, 27.5 Plus I think is hard to beat. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll get my next bike and we'll see where that one leads to.